This video is about the Colonial Keeping Room box, which was created at the Guild School of Miniature Artisans in 1992. At that time, the Guild offered their classes at the Maine Maritime Academy in Castine, Maine, and the classes were taught by artisans or fellows of the International Guild of Miniature Artisans, better known as IGMA. I was fortunate enough to attend the Guild School for 4 consecutive years in the early 1990s, and this room box was one of my very last classes. I returned home with an unfinished room box, and finally, this year during the COVID-19 isolation, I was able to finish it. The Guild School charged a course fee that provided for Carol Hardy's instruction and supplied the materials to build out the room box. Prior to all of us arriving in Castine, Carol contacted each of her students and asked us to make the bricks for the fireplace ahead of time. I remember making the teeny tiny bricks in my home backyard. So now I'm going to remove the roof of the room box so you can see how the fireplace was constructed. Back here. Please note that the firebox oven structure were already part of the supplied room box. I didn't create these. The rest of the box, not including the furniture, was my creation. So look at the bricking on the upper portion of the bread oven chamber and on the fireplace itself. I glued each brick in place and later mortared them. The pole was designed to suspend cooking pots. Now you will see the mantle, the bread oven, and the wood storage built into the front of the fireplace. Next came painting the wall and ceiling with a texturized paint. The paint gives the appearance of a whitewashed stucco material. After finishing the wall painting, bricking the fireplace and the hearth, work began in earnest on the back wall. I cut the provided basswood sheet material into uneven sized boards, sanded and stained them. An allowance was made to create a back wall cabinet as the boards were glued in place. The wall cabinet doesn't open, it's just detail. The next part of the project involved making the outside door, again cutting the basswood sheets into appropriate lengths, sanding and staining, and applying them to the wall. Again, this is a detail because it doesn't open. And I want you to notice the wooden door latch. I fussed and fussed over this for quite a while to get it right. Remember, all the wood was supplied as raw sheets and or boards. It was each student's task to measure and cut what was needed from the raw materials provided. Floorboards were next part of the project to be tackled. Of course, that involved measuring, sanding, cutting, staining the floorboards, then gluing them in place. Each board was randomly sized, which added authenticity. Once glued in place, we used brass tacks to nail the boards on each end, again for authenticity. Creating the windows was pretty interesting. We were given 4 pieces of glass already cut to the size required. I used the metal wrapping from around a wine bottle that I flattened and cut into strips to make the lead glazing on both sides of the 4 windows. Talk about precision cutting with ruler and X-Acto knife. Then the windows' wooden frames had to be cut, sanded, stained, and glued around the glass, hoping against hope that the windows would fit in the space allowed in the room box walls. Window sills also had to be made and inserted in the space. Notice the little peg in the middle of the sill plate? I have no idea what that detail is for. Floor mopboards, supports for the ceiling headers, and ceiling beams were next. The piece was distressed to resemble hand-cut beams and cut out according to their respective measurements. Needless to say, I became skilled at reading a ruler to 1/32 of an inch. The ceiling beams were glued into a grid shape and inserted into the major beams running horizontally at the front and back wall of the room box. So you can see the inserts right here and back here. Interior with a soft pinkish glow was placed behind the 2 ceiling beams to light the interior, and it is supposed to resemble the glow of firelight. Headers that run perpendicularly along the room box side to place the 9-volt battery and connections completely out of sight. I was reluctant to glue all this in place since the bulbs may need changing at some point in the future, as well as the battery. As I created the room box, I was really excited to purchase the furniture from other collectors who had purchased directly from IGMA artisans and fellows. For example, the Windsor chairs were made by Ed Norton. James Hastrich made the red chest, the red painted chest. George Hoffman made the corner chair. Carolyn Curran made the butter churn. Warren Dick made the spinning wheel. Tom Thumb provided a lot of the smaller items. And the Berkmeyers provided things like the candle maker. And this really marvelous whale oil lamp, a Betty lamp. I want you to think that I had made these things because I don't have the skill level to produce them. The bride's box over here with the man and the woman on it was painted in Mary Grady O'Brien's class in one of the IGMA classes. But other than that, everything else was purchased. So thank you for looking at my Colonial keeping room box. It's been a lot of fun and interesting to research. Oh, I do want to mention one other thing. If you look on this James Hastrich piece, the initials at the bottom say AB. And when I was doing my ancestry, I found out that my mother's line goes back 13 generations to Mary Love Wentworth Brewster, who was one of the original pilgrims who came to America on the Mayflower. And I just thought that was really an interesting detail. Again, thanks for looking, and I've really enjoyed doing this and talking to you about it.